In the age of the internet, we often forget about the projects, companies, and networks that were once dominant and now don't exist or are so irrelevant, it's like they don't exist. Internet networks like MySpace and AOL, search engines like Ask Jeeves, software companies like CompuServe, personal computer makers like Compaq, which had a market share of $40 billion in 2000, but died out by 2013. I remember using AOL and MySpace and never would have considered that they'd both be a thing of the past within 5 years of starting to use them. But that's just part and parcel of technology, innovation, and its adoption. It moves quicker than any one person can possibly grasp. All of this is to introduce today's guest, Zak Hilton, who currently does digital strategy and marketing for clients by leveraging the social media platforms of today to help his clients ensure revenues tomorrow. Zak and I met on LinkedIn, and his insight into Web3 and how today's social media platforms could play out in the future of the internet is priceless. If Web2 was the creator economy, then Web3 is for economy creators, and Zak will no doubt be a leader of economy creating by combining his social media and Web3 knowledge to continue to add value not only for his clients' marketing campaigns, but for the Web3 discussion at large. On this episode, we explore the future of social media and Web3, because it's not always apparent which social media platform today will be the MySpace of tomorrow. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi Water. Zak, welcome to Wi-Fi Water. How you doing?
Very well, thanks, Jarrett. How are you?
I am very well. For most people listening to this, they probably don't know this. We had recorded this before, but I made a technical error because that happens and no one's perfect. So we're back on. This is kind of like the remix. And I'm excited to have you on because you do digital strategy for clients in, the hopes to help basically, I would say, increase their brand awareness, right? With the hopes and the end goal of probably making a sale of a product or a service. And so, yeah, and you're into Web3. And where those two meet is probably multi-billion-dollar industry. If not right now, but definitely in the next 5 years, probably trillions of dollars, if we're going to be honest, in the next 10 years. So how did you get into digital strategy? And then how did you fall into Web3?
Yeah, so it's funny how you say this. Yeah, we've had to record this again, which I think is great because last time we had also lag issues because we're over different sides of the world, and so I think it's just the extra iteration. It will probably make this a lot better to listen to anyway. But yeah, so about digital strategy, yeah, I didn't know it existed. No one in my family or anything's into digital strategy, but I knew I wanted to do something in business. I just couldn't figure out how to get to where I didn't understand how to get to digital strategy because I didn't know it was a career or a thing. And I just kept trying to find out how I could get into a better position for a career for myself. And I ended up getting into looking into marketing, and I found digital marketing. And then from digital marketing, now I'm into more the strategy and branding side of projects for clients. And fast forward now, on the side, I was into investing, but I knew I didn't have a lot of money. So I'm like, how can I get the most bang for buck as quick as you can? That's usually how you start investing anyway. And I seen there's some good index funds and everything that might go up 8-10% average a year. It's like, yeah, that's pretty good. But like crypto looks pretty interesting. So I started learning about that. And just fast forward, about 6 months, like working on those two things, I've kind of joined them together in a way that I find super interesting for every brand and every project out there that can implement digital strategy and Web3 into that so that you can stay relevant in the future.
When you say the future, and that was a really good intro, and you're doing my job for me because I totally should mention the fact that I am currently on the East Coast of the United States and you are in Australia, I believe the capital. So thank you for saying all that. And when you say the future, because I think the future is an abstract idea. Is that in a year? Is that tomorrow? Or is that in 5 years? When should, if I'm a business, I have a business and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm like, I know I need to start to think about how Web3, NFTs, crypto, and essentially the whole blockchain ecosystem may change where I am with my current business, may change the product I'm selling, may change the way in which I deliver my service. When should I, as the small business owner hearing this podcast, when should I be thinking the future is? Obviously, maybe yesterday is a good time to start. What's the saying? Like the best time to plant a tree is 25 years ago. So maybe I can't even start in the next year. When should I, sit down and say, how important is this going to be to my revenue stream?
That's a great question, because there's a lot of different kind of businesses out there, and I find it's hard to relate Web3 to everything right now. But the best thing for founders of projects, if you want to stay on top of what you're doing in the future, is just to devote a simple 30 minutes to an hour a day of browsing through Twitter, of like curate your feeds on social to something more interested in learning about. I think that's a cool framework for anyone like building something, is like curate your feeds into the future that you're trying to learn in. So it's like Web3 is probably going to be a big part of our future. So let's start curating our Twitter and LinkedIn, Facebook, instead of my family just posted a new photo all the time and that's it. It's okay, Zach posted something about digital strategy and Web3 for my business. That's kind of interesting. And I feel like that compounds really quickly, and you start to get a gist of what is kind of happening and how you'll make your own metaphors on how things relate to each other in the past and in the future. So it's like Web3 in the future might be the same as learning about the internet and in the early 2000s for you when you were starting your business then. So you can go, oh, wow, like you'll make your own metaphors on things you've experienced in the past when you start learning about this stuff. But for me, yeah, this is how projects and businesses are going to be released in the future through NFTs, Web3. It's going to be a big part.
I believe that, I guess I'll call it on the first time we recorded, you were saying that with most of your clients that you work with right now for digital strategy and marketing, it's more focused on maybe Facebook ads, on that type of Facebook, Google ads. What sector do you think should be most focused on Web3 NFTs today?
Straight away, it's individual creators and artists that already have an audience, not trying to build an audience, but creators that already have an audience right now online. Using NFTs for that is a no-brainer. Like if you're a music artist and you haven't been thinking about NFTs yet, you're really missing out on staying ahead of the curve before everyone else catches up. So definitely just solo creators that are building online, or someone that is providing art, whether it's in the form of audio, video, design, and you've already got people paying attention to your work, NFTs are just the spot to go.
I think I know, but maybe you can it'd be good to have probably on the podcast for you to explain how that would work. So, I'm a music artist and I come to you and I find you on Twitter because I see you posting about Web3. And I'm like, you know what? Zach really knows what he's talking about. I want to pick Zach's brain on this, which, to be fair, isn't far from how you and I met on LinkedIn, because I saw that you were posting some awesome stuff. And I said, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Let's continue to, both increase our network. Let's increase the network effect. So I'm an artist and I come to you and I say, I have this many subscribers on YouTube, this many on, followers on TikTok, on Instagram. This is my social network. I want to monetize it as an artist. How do I actually do that? Because I have like ideas in my mind, and I've seen how some artists are already doing it. I know Nas just recently came out and said, hey, for these next two, or for these two songs, if you buy an NFT to back the song, the amount of revenue that song gets from Spotify's listenership or whatever, you will get a piece of that by owning the NFT. Here I am, Zach. Zach, I have this audience. How do I monetize it? And how do I use NFTs to strengthen my community?
That's a great way to put it. What he's doing is perfect. The best thing about it is there's a lot of creative ways to do it. So it's not just, okay, I only release this and you can buy this and you'll get this. There's so many more ways, and we're only just touching the surface on some of this stuff. But what I would do is, it's like fractionalizing art and putting it out for people to own parts of that thing. So whether you own an NFT that supports that, what Nas is doing, and supports that, like heaps of people can buy NFTs and support that project for like, and you own the NFT. Instead of that, having one NFT, and like you can do this in reverse. So it's like having one NFT only and fractionalizing it and making 100 people being able to buy 1% of it, and then, or however much percent you want, very expensive, like whether it's $5,000 or something, and then they earn the resale value on that, like a certain part of that, or they earn the music streams from that. Like here's a perfect case. It's like, I'm putting out a single, here's an NFT, it's $5,000, or let's just say $10,000 for sake of the podcast, and there's you can buy as much as you want of it. Okay, well, I like your music so much, but I don't have like 10 grand right now. Like, I'll just put up $200 or something. And it's like, okay, well, I own a certain percent of that, and his marketing to me is like, you will earn your percentage on the resale value of that NFT in perpetuity forever. And you'll get some revenue stream from whether that's Spotify, whether that's YouTube ads from the streaming of that or whatnot. That is a perfect case scenario that I would implement tomorrow if I had fans that were interested in NFTs.
Right. If you were a music artist and you're like, all right, I can just monetize tomorrow because now I don't need to go through Sony. I don't need to go through Capitol Records. I can actually take and I think that is, how you talked about metaphors earlier, and you're like, if you want to think about how did I onboard Web3, I can think about how I had to get strategical with the internet. I think what you've just said is probably the flip in the music industry that happened back in the 90s with LimeWire, Napster, and before the iTunes store existed. I remember as a kid being like 10 years old and like ripping music off Napster and then downloading it and burning it on a CD and then walking around with my CD, and I had music for free. And I think the shift with NFTs and creators, especially musical artists like you're talking about, I think it will be that profound on the music industry, because I could foresee a future where the idea of being an agent doesn't really exist. Because in the peer-to-peer, if you're the artist and I want to buy your music, I just straight now buy it from you through the NFT. Or I could also get money back by having supported the project, which is, I think, it's still, I understand it, but it's one of those things too that I still struggle to deal with, because it's like, how can I benefit financially by the success of my favorite artist? Normally in the past, it just didn't exist, but now with digital ownership, it seems like it's going to be more of a thing. And so I want to transition there, and I want to take advantage of having you on the podcast, a guy who does social media strategy or digital strategy for clients. And we're going to run through 6 or 7 social media sites. And we're going to ask two questions. How will this fare with Web3? And what does marketing or digital strategy look like for this in 5 years? So let's start off with the one I think is, and I don't know if I should inject what I think will happen necessarily in the question, but I think Twitter is setting itself up to be able to roll with the punches of the transition into Web3. But I also don't know. But that's really where the Web3 community kind of shares all of its public information. I know that we could talk about Discord as we go through the list, but how do you think Twitter is going to, is it going to be a winner in the Web3 world, or is it potentially going to be loser? And I don't want to say loser because it's like there's winners and losers, but more like maybe not take advantage to the full level of Web3.
Okay, so not to divert too far away from the question, but I was thinking about this the other day pretty deeply. It's like, well, the Netflixes, the Googles, etc. of the Web3 world actually haven't even been invented yet. So think about that. And it's like a lot of these projects are probably going to zero in the Web3 space, but social media networks in Web3 are still yet to be actually discovered or created. So even as a Web3 project, if you're focusing on the best place to build a social media network for the future, or the best place to just build on in the future, if you can get those Googles, Netflixes of the world in Web3, like in the meta world, in the metaverse, and have them build on your platform, I think that is a real big opportunity for any crypto project. But back to Twitter, I think Twitter is going to be known for the first place Web3 started. It's going to be like a nostalgic vibe in like 10 years. I don't know, because with Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, he obviously recently left. I think that did bad for Twitter stock, but he's obviously going on to build onto Square and Block, as it's now called, into more of a Bitcoin area. So he's going to do Web3, but away from Twitter. So that's not a good thing. But all the culture of Web3 is actually on Twitter right now. So it's hard to see where exactly it all depends on what they do with features and whatnot going forward, and either suppressing information or not etc., and how the rollout of the metaverse pairs on Twitter is going to be interesting as well. But I think it's going to always have a nostalgic vibe because that's where like the industry and NFTs would not be as big as it. I reckon the market cap would be in half of some of these projects if Twitter wasn't around. It's like created so much hype around projects and so much information, and I get a lot of information from it. So it's definitely going to be a nostalgic vibe, but I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near the leader in the space in the future.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure that out too, because I completely agree. I think Jack Dorsey leaving changes, he's at the head of the ship. He's like manning the ship, right? He's saying this is where the boat is going to go. And then when he leaves, the direction of Twitter can kind of be a little, maybe not lost, but maybe a little unknown. And I think that those are actually two different things. And when I think about Twitter, I see what they're doing. Now you can do, crypto tips if you like someone's work or you follow someone to get a lot of value from them, and that they're going to allow you to be able to put verified NFTs by connecting your MetaMask or whatever wallet as your picture. I think they're really trying to move towards what we're going to see, what exactly happens with Twitter. And then, thinking further about let's look at Facebook and talk about Web3, because Facebook is now Meta. So when we talk about Facebook, how do you think Facebook is going to continue to try to monetize eyeballs and be the marketing, multi-billion-dollar thing that it is in the quote metaverse?
So I think the hardest one out of any of this social network to understand what it's going to do in the future is Facebook. It's like Facebook's the hardest because its core audience is like mums at 35 now, something like that. I was saying the other day, it's like the easiest demographic to market it to on Facebook and work it with e-commerce is like mums at like 40 or something. So it's like them. So if that's like the demographic that is on all the time, that's always participating in Facebook, like the network, not the company, and then transitioning that to metaverse is very interesting how that overlaps with not really the demographic, the metaverse. So that's why it's so hard to see what's going to happen. I have no idea with what Mark is going to do, but he's a genius, I think, because of his kind of build quick approach. Like changing his name to Meta as a $1 trillion company is ridiculous. Like changing your name is just like starting a new brand. Is like, wow, like you already had a big name, but now you're trying to do something completely different. So I really applaud his risk taking. And I think like in the past, I've had I listened to this on another podcast recently, is like Facebook in the early days was like more known for having like hiring hackers that would build quick in risks, in like the risk to maybe things might fail, but they wanted to move quickly and put in things that might not work. And it obviously has worked considering Facebook's huge. And I think they still have that, even though it's not maybe as marketed now as they hire hackers so that they can kind of build quicker rather than being conservative. I still think it's there, because if you change your name at a $1 trillion market cap or whatever they were, I think that is a very big, bold move. I think they're the ones to watch to see what happens with the metaverse, but I really have no idea how they're going to fare. But that Mark will be somewhere doing something. I just don't know where Facebook goes in the future, because Facebook's going downhill like really bad. Everyone knows that, but they still have obviously a lot of user base and a lot of money goes through there and they make a killing. But yeah, it's just them to do with Web3. I don't know what they're going to do. They could do anything they want with the amount of money they have.
I completely agree with everything that you just said, because Facebook as a place, especially since around 2015, 2016 in the United States, stateside, that is when it really went down this diatribe of political cacophony where everyone was yelling, but no one was being heard. Donald Trump did a huge amount of damage, I think, to social networks, being mainly here in the United States, being Twitter and Facebook. And I know that those are really US centric comments, but it's like my lived experience on those two platforms, focusing more on Facebook. And it's like, how is Facebook going to exist if they can't run ads? And they won't be able to run ads potentially if everyone has moved to something different. And like you're saying, if the people most active on Facebook is a demographic of mothers, or, a certain demographic between this age and this age, they just may not translate over easily into putting on goggles and using AR and VR equipment. I don't see that working. Whereas I see younger generations that won't touch Facebook with a 10-foot pole, they're already doing that. I have friends' kids who are already wearing goggles and doing stuff in more of like a augmented reality thing, because it's way more interesting to them than to get on Facebook and hear their uncle say something crazy. I'm not really sure. I think you're totally right. It is the biggest unknown. And going with Facebook, though, let's talk about Instagram directly. What does Instagram look like in the metaverse? Because Instagram for me is a very 2D experience.
I think they can do something cool at Instagram with digital art, because digital art's going to be a big part of the future. I was just having a thought while we were talking about Facebook, and it's like if they really wanted, they could probably release their own social. I wouldn't be surprised if they had ideas to make their own social network for Web3 in the future. Like, I would not be surprised if they just randomly one day did that and had so much incentive for Facebook accounts to just connect using your Facebook account, and it's all just the same again. And you know what I mean? I feel like that could happen with Facebook and Instagram being owned by a Meta. But with Instagram specifically, that's dying as well. The organic reach is getting horrible. And also the people that were building brands and a lot of models on Instagram, they're still getting a lot of follows and whatnot, but they're not getting as big as brand deals as like TikTok and whatnot. TikTok is definitely, will go there next. I think Instagram's way far behind on the Web3 stuff. I don't even think they're even thinking about Instagram as a product with Web3. That would be my opinion. I feel like it's got its own spot and it's going to continue to have its own spot. And my girlfriend's probably going to still browse Instagram, so that's all good. I think it's got its own spot. I don't think it's going to have to change or anything for it to survive for a while. So I think that it's all going smoothly at Facebook and Meta, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mark's got some crazy stuff planned for the future with their own social network or something like that.
I think you hit on something on the head there that is a sentiment felt by, I know we're kind of talking about this in like a business sense, like how can you leverage these platforms to probably grow a brand and then sell a product or service. But the thing you just hit on is so important when I talk about Web3 with people from a business standpoint, or just people from like hey, this is kind of an interesting thing and you may want to check it out, is I'm comfortable now, Zach, living my life. Why would I want to think about the future? I'm, for example, for a business owner, I have revenue coming now. Why would I want to think about the future? If it's working now, I don't think it's going to change, or if it does change, then I'll deal with it then, because the problems I have in front of me are already the problems I have in front of me now. And I think that I just wanted to call that out. I think it's a sentiment felt through everyone, humans in general. And I think it's something, honestly, the pandemic has kind of like poked us, and said like, we're going to make you uncomfortable. We're going to see how you deal with that.
But I feel like it's just a mindset thing. Like, everything's mindset for me. It's like you're either in a scarce mindset or an abundance mindset. And right now I'm trying every day. Like I'm trying to, at the moment, I'm trying to journal every day this year. And other than just getting thoughts out of my head, I'm trying to journal and say, I'm in an abundance mindset. There's a lot of options out here. There's a lot of opportunity and I'm excited about it, rather than like trying to get scared about it. Don't know, why should I make this investment? Just trying to have an abundance mindset is super important for me. And then being grateful to even be where I'm at and be able to build something, and thinking about it as an abundance rather than, I'll change in the future if I need to, like, and just kind of be ignorant. So yeah, I think that's an important takeaway for people that were probably like, no, I don't want to think about Web3 yet, but in the future I'll deal with that. It's like, have a little look into it. It's pretty interesting stuff. You'll find your niche in there somewhere. There'll be something you're interested in somewhere there.
110% agree. The mindset really drives most of what we do in life. And you mentioned TikTok when we were talking about Instagram. So let's go right there, because I want to know how you feel TikTok is setting up for Web3. And then also from a digital strategy standpoint, is TikTok now the place to go?
Yep, 100%. Only place to go for e-commerce. Like, and this is bold, but it's the only place to go for e-commerce. Facebook's very hit and miss for selling products and whatnot on. They can still work wildly well, and it's still working awesome for heaps of brands and services. But TikTok, the value you get is unbelievable. Like, they were the fastest, obviously, social network to get to 1 billion active users, monthly active users, which is enormous. Like, smashed Instagram and Facebook out of the park. And obviously there's more people interested in social media now, so it was maybe a bit easier for them than early Facebook. But like, just rapid growth, straight to 1 billion monthly active users, organic traffic going through the roof. I know people building $10 million a year e-commerce brands that are only using organic reach on TikTok. No ads, not even trying to do ads. So it's like, if you can do that on TikTok, all you got to really do is put yourself on there and kind of understand content. And I mean, talking about Web3 with TikTok, huge. It's going to be huge. They've already announced creator-led NFT projects in TikTok. They announced funding for that kind of recently. I think that's going to be super powerful. So, I know a lot of layer 1s and layer 2 projects that don't even have TikTok profiles or accounts putting out content about the project on there. They're focusing on Twitter and whatnot. I mean, if I was a layer 1, like Ethereum, like a Zilliqa, I'd be putting out content every day on TikTok and getting the millennials and even younger people thinking about Web3 and understanding the investment opportunities. And I think you'll do surprisingly really well with getting people on board.
TikTok is, if you're listening to this and you don't know what TikTok is, for me, it's always been like a perfect mix of what I like about Instagram and what I like about YouTube, because it's quick content that I get on Instagram, but it's video that I get on YouTube, and it can be super informational. Going from just TikTok, let's just go to the one I think is always the elephant in the room, and the one that you kind of have to have a foothold in now, I think, to really build a brand, which is YouTube. YouTube, Web3. I don't know if I've really even thought about this. So tell me about Web3 and YouTube.
So I think this is a bit different. I don't think YouTube have to necessarily build something to be a part of Web3. They are going to be, YouTube's still growing. YouTube's still growing at an enormous rate. It's probably the most important platform out of everything. Probably, if I had to focus on 2 platforms, if I was building anything, would be TikTok and YouTube. Hands down, 100%. And YouTube is amazing to start off with, but it is also we can consume way too much of my time if I don't be careful. So with YouTube, I don't think it needs to integrate Web3 too much, but I think partnering with certain brands and projects in Web3 to kind of bridge things across does work. So they don't need to be like, okay, let's certify your profile picture on YouTube to be like a part of your wallet and connect your wallet and this and that. No, you can always build third-party applications through Chrome extensions and whatnot that will work with YouTube. So that's what project I think I mentioned last time, XCAD Network. They're a project where partnering with creators and releasing tokens on YouTube. So when you watch your favorite creators, you have a Chrome extension that gets that creator token. So if I'm watching Mr. Beast, I get some of Mr. Beast's creator token that goes into my wallet that's in a Chrome extension, and YouTube doesn't have to do anything about that. And Web3 can flourish on there without having to say themselves, okay, we're going to do this. They don't need to, because there's certain things that work really well with building on top of YouTube that is going to be awesome.
You mentioned Mr. Beast, and this is, I believe, the WatchToEarn movement. I guess I could call it. I don't really know, but so the incentive there would be like, I follow Zak, I love his content on YouTube, and now every hour I watch of his, or every video that I watch all the way through, I am paid in a WatchToEarn token. That is, I connect to my Google Chrome just through the browser. It's a Chrome extension. And then I would ideally then be able to keep that as tokens and see if they appreciate, or I could just exchange them out, probably using a decentralized exchange to get something that I could then turn back into an actual fiat currency. Is that how it would work?
That's perfect. So what this project has done is actually, so they are partnered with Mr. Beast, which is the biggest YouTuber on the planet, and it's still going to be. He puts enormous effort into his videos to make them successful, which is awesome to see. But they're also partnered with KSI and other big YouTubers, like hundreds of millions of subscribers in total, right? And what they just recently announced the decentralized exchange. So this is probably a bit more of a talk for someone that's already into DeFi or into cryptocurrency a bit more. There might be a couple in here, but you should check out XCAD because it's super interesting especially if you're part of YouTube or a creator. So they have their exchange. They have a plugin that'll be available to the public super soon, and you can watch tokens. You can watch creators and get tokens into the extension that is connected to your wallet address, and then you can go onto the decentralized exchange and either stake that token, partner it with other tokens, and earn crazy APYs and really like farming essentially. And you can also exchange it to USDT or fiat or whatever, which is an awesome look at the world for creators, as it's kind of aligning human incentives with enjoyment more. So it's like, I always liked watching videos, and like, but this like back in like 2000, say, it's like, oh, I want to watch DVDs or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you don't get anything for it, right? But now you can watch the best content on YouTube and get something for it. Who doesn't want to do that? It automatically does it to an extension. Like, it's a master idea.
I think that's going to change everything. And I know we're going through social media platforms, but we've just talked about WatchToEarn. When I think about gaming, because gaming already is kind of, once again, I'm really gaming agnostic. I do not know a lot about gaming, but I understand it from like maybe a 30,000 feet cultural standpoint. I look down and I see the forest. It's hard for me to maybe see the trees because I just didn't grow up with it. But when I think about gaming, it already seems like if you are in a game like Fortnite or something and you're just walking around and you have goggles on, you're kind of already in a meta situation because you're running into other people potentially from around the world that you're literally running into in this using an avatar. And so can you talk a little bit about, we just talked about WatchToEarn, which I think is something I still am going to wrap my head around, but PlayToEarn, what does that look like?
Yeah, so PlayToEarn it already has worked really well with Axie Infinity, a game that there's been certain countries and people in countries like in Singapore where they've earned just like the median salary just out of playing this game, which is ridiculous. There are a lot of games trying to do this as well now, but the craziest part is that it's again aligning human incentive. Instead of your mom and dad might have been like, oh, stop playing the game, you don't get anything out of it. Well, now they're bringing in a salary for the family over in Singapore if you play this game. So it's like you get to play a game that you might like and you get to earn at least something from it, which is super interesting. I'm more interested in so PlayToEarn is interesting, but as a marketer, especially digital marketer, influencer marketing, for anyone listening, influencer marketing is where you pay someone with lots of reach and pay them a certain amount and they advertise your product or service. I personally think XCAD is going to pull off the greatest influencer marketing play in the history of marketing, hands down. It's unbelievable what they're going to do with WatchToEarn. And honestly, I bring this back to PlayToEarn because Twitch, super interesting. And they just announced the other day that XCAD is also partnering with Twitch. So that's going to change the game so they weren't even looking at gaming. It was just like WatchToEarn on YouTube for creators. Now they're partnering with certain Twitch creators, maybe like potentially Shroud or something like that. That'd be amazing. Like, come on. So like that PlayToEarn, I think it's not only you play to earn, but you watch someone playing to earn, which can overlap even more.
It's almost like you can see the list I have in front of me because literally the next one on my list is Twitch. So yeah, and you've already covered it. Twitch, for those of you that do not know, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, I've been on Twitch very briefly in life, but it's a place that started and it's, I think, fairly dominated by people who do video games. Or video gamers, people are playing video games and interested in learning about video games. But you could, if I'm like, wow, Zak's super good at this video game, I could watch you and I could pay to watch you play because then I'll learn things that then I can use when I go and play. So it only makes sense then that they would take the PlayToEarn to even another level to reward everyone in the community.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Twitch, I'm just actually having a look at the moment on their website because I always like to see what games I've got. They show on the browse tab on the website, like which games have got the most viewers currently, which is super interesting. And I always knew this, but it's actually like they've got this, I guess, category where it's IRL, so in real life, and it's just like chatting. So you might have your favorite creator that is just streaming like a Q&A or whatnot. the just chatting section is by far the most popular right this second. But then you have games like Minecraft, Fortnite, Valorant, Grand Theft Auto, League of Legends, etc., that all have people streaming it and make it that's the job. Yeah, I got into a game called Counter-Strike a while back, and I was on Twitch watching my favorite gamers play that for a bit, and I couldn't. I had to stop playing the game because I'd spend way too much time playing it. So I don't do any gaming now, unfortunately. But yeah, God, it's a different world that Twitch is like its own world, and I feel like they could pull off a really interesting metaverse play. Like me going on the platform, if I had goggles and being able to be like in real life with someone like Shroud as a big creator playing this game, and I'm watching him play, but in real life in the metaverse on Twitch, somehow they could pull off some crazy metaverse stuff. I feel like I'm not too sure how the business is going and how the trajectory is and what they're thinking about at all. I don't think about Twitch too much as a network, but it definitely has its place. And if they pull off something in the metaverse, I think that could really be interesting.
Twitch for me is like an entire different part of the internet that I just don't really know much about. And anytime I see friends on it or I read an article and then I go on and I learn, it is just like, it's like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that book for me. I'm just like, holy crap, there's an entire world right there. And I just didn't even know about it, because there are people making millions of dollars a month just playing video games, or like you said, just talking into a camera or just cooking, and people want to watch them cook because they're such great. I mean, it is, Twitch to me is, when we look back on the Web3, I think the whole idea of play to earn, watch to earn, a lot of that I think has its genesis in kind of the way Twitch was able to change the paradigm there.
I think Twitch was like ahead of the game when it came out, definitely ahead of the game with live streaming, but like unbelievable the amount of money you can make as a creator, as a gamer on Twitch. Like I know I've seen so many players that would play esport games for like professional contracts and just say, nah, I make more money on Twitch. I don't even need to get 20k a month playing my favorite game in the world for a professional organization and fly around the world. I don't need to do that. I'll just sit at home in the comfort of my own home and get donations for thousands of dollars every single day and just play for people and do whatever I want. It's just like, what the hell is this world?
the Twitch world is so big. Sergio Aguero, who is an Argentine footballer who played for Man City for a long time and actually just had to retire, he's pretty big on live streaming and all that. And I just remember a quote where he was like, I'm way more nervous to play on Twitch than I am in front of a live stadium of 100,000 people, which I was just funny. Like, it couldn't wrap my head around, because he's a great footballer and it's just incredible. And we met, changing subjects a little bit, going from Twitch back to like a professional social media, which is LinkedIn. Do you think, how does LinkedIn play into Web3?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn's still I don't think it's going to be one of the leaders in Web3 at all. I think they could have a potential play with learning about Web3 on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn Learning is a big play for them. So if you obviously have a membership or you have a course that you're doing gives you a LinkedIn Learning membership, usually they leverage a lot of the LinkedIn courses that are already on there for marketing, etc., because there's really good courses on there, believe it or not. And they could leverage that with I haven't actually had a look at it, but I'm sure you can make courses about Web3 on LinkedIn Learning and really make a good killing on there. And I think that could be a place to learn about that sort of thing. But in regards to LinkedIn itself for just the average user, I think it's going to play a role in just showing who you are in Web3, like in a professional sense. It's like there's still a professional network, even in Web3 on LinkedIn, and it's going to keep going that way in the professional sense. There's a lot of good content now being written on LinkedIn about everything, and it's going to keep trending towards in the Web3 NFT space. And I think it's just going to continue as it is, as a professional network, but get more into Web3. And people are going to start recognizing it more as bigger organizations on LinkedIn, because the second in charge at a big company now has NFTs in their bio because they just bought a CryptoPunk for $250,000 because they got a ball of money. And okay, well, let's have a bit more of a look into it, rather than just seeing the noise on Twitter for people that are just like consumers and not really a part of a big company or whatnot. Now the bigger companies, employees are getting into investing in that. So now the company might take notice of that. I see a play there, but nothing too groundbreaking on LinkedIn yet.
For LinkedIn, just for your clients, how is LinkedIn right now for digital strategy, for marketing, for creating brand? And I say that because that's where we met. And that's where I also met Nick Widmer. And I just feel like the organic reach on LinkedIn is still pretty good. It seems to be like where Facebook was in like 2012, 2013, 2014, where the algorithm doesn't keep the stuff that you say on there just to your network. It will kind of push it out into other reaches of the overall LinkedIn community.
I think that's super powerful. We don't do too much LinkedIn ads. I think they're a bit overpriced with some of the in some use cases, but organic, if you're talking anything about an organic content strategy for any business, it's TikTok and LinkedIn. That's the play there. And then YouTube for a longer term play for organic traffic. But it's just, LinkedIn, if you're operating a business and you're not writing on LinkedIn, you're doing yourself a disservice, I would say, for your own business, because I've seen so many people that run a small business get on LinkedIn and put out their thoughts about, they might be a tree lopping business and they might be talking about that. Eventually they have more followers than what their business does. And they're the man to go to for that around the world, for that tree lopping content or whatnot. So it's like that, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not posting on LinkedIn for business people, for sure.
The last social media that I had on here was just Discord, because Discord seems to be anchoring the current community chatter. I don't really know another way to say it. Maybe that's better than that, but Discord seems to be where people are kind of going to right now, where it's like, hey, if you want to be part of my NFT project or you want to be part of this, join my Discord. Does Discord continue to have that market share, or are we going to see, like you said, like we don't even know what the Facebook or the Instagram of the decentralized web or Web3 or the metaverse looks like? Is it going to still have a place, or is it going to just be run over by something else?
If I had to pull my prediction out right now, what's going to happen to Discord, I don't think it's going to keep taking market share. I think something else is going to take its place. I feel like even Telegram, if we could even put in Telegram into this, it's like Telegram kind of took a bit of Discord's market share, because going into a Telegram group, I use Telegram. I use Discord heaps, but both of those platforms actually have some issues with spamming. That's one big issue with all this. It's a lot of spam bots. As soon as you join or say something in a channel, you'll get spammed. And either platform hasn't really figured that out between Telegram and Discord. But I think Discord is better for groups in general, regardless of Web3, but in just pure Web3 sense, I'm in more favor of Telegram for chatting rather than opening Discord and seeing all this spam. I find that just a bit more user interface better for me. But in the future, there's going to be a way better Discord. The only way it doesn't take market share, the new Discord, is if Discord gets better. And I think it will a little bit, but I don't see it going even more crazy than what it is unless it really changes some of its features.
Because I was trying to think out loud before we got on the call, and I was thinking through some of these bigger ideas, and it's like WhatsApp, since it was, acquired by Facebook or Meta now, WhatsApp is where a lot of people chat. That's where I chat with most of my friends, even stateside, but definitely my friends that are stateside that aren't from the States. And definitely all the people abroad, I just live in WhatsApp. But I'm like, now that WhatsApp's owned by Facebook, so it's kind of aligned with that, or Facebook or Meta, however you want to say. It's it's under the Zuckerberg kingdom. Discord exists and Telegram exists, and they both are kind of spammy. I'm just like, there's going to be a way that we're all going to continue to chat as it moves, as life and our digital lives move into Web3, that I just think is going to be superior, but I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's a better version of one of those, if it's a mix of all those, because I agree the spam on Discord and on Telegram is really off-putting.
I feel like Twitter could make a good play on that. That could be the good play. Like they somehow because Twitter messages, I don't use them that much. Like we've chatted a couple of times on there, but it's a bit not clunky, but I just never go into it as much. But I feel like if they could change a couple of features, like UI features with the messaging, and actually make it more of an app, a separate app. In a way, I feel like Twitter could make a really good play with that, because I feel like you're on there consuming all this information. Like, you want to DM someone, but it doesn't feel as nice to DM someone on Twitter than it does maybe on a, I don't know, like a Telegram. Even for me, I DM a lot of people on Telegram that are in Web3. But yeah, I feel like Twitter could make a play. I don't think they are, but I mean, if Twitter released something that was much better than Discord and Telegram, I would use it. But I don't know if they're actually doing that. But that's just my opinion.
This is something I think I discussed with Nick Whitmer, but it's like when you are trying to figure out Web3, you listen to this podcast, you're like, okay, these two guys connected. They don't even know each other. They met on LinkedIn and now they're talking about this Web3 thing. I want to learn more. Where do I go? What are like the 3 things you go to? And when I say 3 things, like be platform specific and then also creator specific, so people know what platform to go to and who to follow.
Twitter. A lot of people in Australia don't go on Twitter. I wasn't on Twitter until till about mid last year. Wasn't even on Twitter. Never looked on it in my life. Australia doesn't do anything with Twitter. It's weird. It's like none of my friends even know what Twitter is, I reckon. Like, it's like they've probably heard it, but none of my friends are on Twitter. So no one on my Twitter following or followed, I don't even know in person, like at all. So, but that's where I've learned a lot of information. I would go there. But podcasting is where I get a lot of my like mindset shifting into like, okay, now I know what Web3 is. I'm relating it back to something. I go podcasts, and I'll give you 2 podcasts. I go NIA, the NIA podcast, Not Investment Advice. It's with a legend, Jack Butcher, one of my biggest inspirations for marketing and what he's done as a solo creator. Absolutely killing it. Came from the advertising world himself and design world. And Trung Fan, he's a lead writer at Trends, I believe, a big newsletter. And also the other guy that's in on the NIA podcast is Bilal Zaidi, and he used to be pretty high up at Charity Water as a charity, I believe, and he's got a really good mind for anything tech and Web3 now. So that podcast I would put, they talk about everything. I learn a lot from there, stateside especially. So NIA, and I would also go down. Tim Ferriss now is starting. I always thought it was a bit weird how he was getting into Web3, but now, like with he's like the only one that can get Naval Ravikant on a podcast and talk openly about so many good questions. So Tim Ferriss, huge shout out to Tim Ferriss for having Naval on multiple times now. He also had Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum. So he had Vitalik and Naval on at the same time, and Naval kind of, I guess, translated Vitalik's super smart brain into more of a consumer-based way. So that was super powerful. You still have to pay attention like hell though to understand what exactly they're talking about. But Tim Ferriss with Naval and the NIA podcast, and then also Twitter. And if you follow Naval and Jack Butcher, Bilal Zaidi, and Trung Fan on Twitter, you'll get so many recommendations in a good area to go down in Web3, especially Jack Butcher. Jack Butcher's killing it. He's in so many cool conversations, so many cool people are commenting on his stuff. I'll just filter that through. It'll probably take a week to find your core audience on Twitter to consume for Web3. Just do it passively. And yeah, I think that's the place where everyone should go.
Perfect. That's perfect. I will make sure to add this in the outro notes, and probably find the episode, people, on Instagram or in the Instagram notes and YouTube, and on Twitter. When I post, I will make sure to tag all of those content creators. And if people want to catch up with you and they want to see your writing, because I definitely think that people should, if you are on LinkedIn, which most people who are listening to this podcast are, go find Zak. Where should they find you on LinkedIn? What's your name on LinkedIn?
Yeah, my name is Zak Cowley-Hilton. Maybe we can we can't put it on the screen because there's only audio. If you just type in Zak Hilton, it'll come up. ZAK Hilton, HILTON. And so that's me on LinkedIn. I'm not posting a whole lot at the moment. I'm trying to build some things at the moment. So I've got a lot of past content that you can filter through on there. But Twitter, always staying up to date on there and sharing what I think's interesting. That's probably where I'm more Web3 based, is on Twitter, and that's just at Zak Hilton too. And yeah, that's where I'm hanging.
Zak, thank you so much for joining the pod. And I'm looking forward to Web3 in 2022.
Thanks, Jarrett. Really appreciate you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and be sure to follow Zak on Twitter at Life with Zak. That's Life with ZAK. And on LinkedIn at Zak Cowley-Hilton. That's ZAK Cowley, COWLEY Hilton, HILTON. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Wifi Water Podcast. And as always, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to the pod. And if this episode resonated with you as a creator, small business owner, or just someone interested in the future of social media, Web3, and the overall internet, please share the link with a friend, coworker, or family member. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.